modal is a program within a program. It's a short mock-up of a scene in a game.
Thomas has this, he's made this game. He's created this other insular world where he's basically gaming his characters.
He doesn't quite know why he writes it, but he writes it.
He calls it an experiment, but what it is a way, a kind of backdoor way for if there is someone out there, maybe they could find it, maybe they could find me.
The great thing about writing for something like The Matrix is we have to come up with names for things. And which for writers, it's a dream come true. There was a philosopher, I think he taught at Princeton, who introduced the notion of modal realities. Universes might be discrete, that is, if you live in one universe, you're not necessarily aware of the existence of other universes.
This is not the real world.
And so the modal became that. So it's a modal reality that Thomas Anderson is created for himself, a little memory capsule to keep you reminding us of the story.
So through that, the film opens, and this is where it's kind of cool. It's just that Lana is basically referencing the opening of The Matrix, but it's got different characters, and you have a character who's now watching this opening as the police and the SWAT are coming into the same kind of apartment building and gonna go get this character, and your men are already dead, and there's a new Smith, and there's gonna be a new Morpheus. Something's different.
We know the story.
There's another layer above you and things don't quite make sense. It's a playthrough of the introduction to the very first Matrix film with subtle variations that make you think that this world hasn't been passive over the last 20 years.
There were actual shots that I said, I kind of have an idea of what that shot was. I'm not gonna go watch the trilogy, I just kind of know what the shot is. And I'm gonna kind of do that shot again in a way that tells you that I'm doing that shot again, but I literally can't make it the way I made it before.
It's a Matrix film, but she's not trying to remake The Matrix.
We're in the modal streets, and right behind me you can probably see the Heart of the City Hotel, which is a duplication from the first Matrix film, and we've kind of echoed that sentiment here, which also appears in our script at the beginning. The Anderson Diner sign, this is an integral part of the street scene. This is when we first see Bugs appear. She has discovered Echo in the Heart of the City hotel room.
This is how it all began.
There's references to Morpheus and to Echo and to Thomas Anderson, all dotted around here and there. The other thing that we did was Thomas Anderson's apartment here.
So we wanted to recreate as close as we could to the original set and the original feel.
Holy shit. This is his apartment.
We had to take how Thomas Anderson has matured and what eclectic sort of, things he's got over the years and put some of his personality in there.
When we did the first, this was obviously all things that were around at the time. The Mac monitors and the keyboards are all things that were easy to get in those days. Not so easy now.
The fact that Thomas Anderson created all of this, and this is in his mind, there may be some subliminal kind of thought that he may have put some of this signage here in his game that he's created.
Before we know what we're up to, we see Echo who's in latex, and you go, oh, okay, I'm watching The Matrix. During that first bit of unfolding, it's quite Matrixy. It's a lot of latex, a lot of leather, a lot of that sort of thing going on. I did want to get it so we were in that Matrix world for that moment, the quite 90s thing.
You have to do this homage to the originals, but at the same time, kind of make something new. The girl that played Echo trains with us. You got to fight her husband in the scene. The husband clothesline her, and then she gives him a boot right back. That's always fun.
All right.
Ready to do it again?
We're trying to make a film very much in the vein of the Matrix.
I'm purposely doing it again to say something about the way that we do things again and again and again in our lives, and to mark the difference of how the againness is never again.
When we pick up on Resurrections, we find Thomas Anderson again working at a gaming company where he has developed a game called The Matrix.
It was a slow progression of finding the location and then finding what we could do to the location. The devil's in the detail, and you can have fun with that, and you can enhance the detail, and it's layer upon layer upon layer of everyday living. And I think that's what goes to make up the design. You may have a beautiful set, but as you go all the way down the tree, there's tiny little things that you can add to give you that sort of convincing tone that it's real. We've got a great set decorator, Barbara. Barbara found some very interesting bits and pieces that had sort of kind of a connection to Thomas Anderson or a connection to the Matrix in very subtle ways. You know, whether they're tiny figurines or some industrial piece of metal that might have come from the Nebuchadnezzar and things like that.
Sorry, it's the boss.
How does Thomas Anderson's office, what sort of ratio of his size of his office goes with the size of the boss's office? You can almost see that when Thomas walks into the boss's office. You kind of know he's just come from a smaller office in the corner somewhere. That's all part of trying to show his character.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious.
There's this whole fully imagined world that sort of establishes the entire vocabulary, not just for its own narrative project, but well outside of it. You do not want to damage it or destroy it and undo it in any way, but also you don't want to be constricted by it. And so the question then began, where would Agent Smith, this force of evil, more than evil, different from evil, force of malignancy, where would you place that? Then he's in Deus Machina, and that's the boss.
Things have changed, the market's tough. I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy. Really?
I love the tiny lines about Warner Brothers and the studio, the bosses. You can hear Lana's voice in that.
The office scene, there's so much irony. I don't remember the other Matrix movies being so ironic. You say Matrix to anybody, this is what they think. Lana brought a lot of humor to this, a lot of her own sense of humor, and a lot of real feelings towards making this movie again.
I thought it would be fun to weave some of myself and my own experience into poor Thomas Anderson's experience.
When Smith first gets reactivated,
Oh my God.
he reverts to type. There's Neo, here's the gun, kill Neo.
Having to learn fights is very physical, and having to fight with other people is a different language than speaking. And so then finding the character within my body has been really great. When I got to do the scene where I come out as the new Smith, I felt like I knew him. It just flew out of me.
Mr. Anderson!
No, it can't be.
Office fight was dope, man. I get to come out, got the two guns blazing, the glasses, the form-fitted gold suit.
Neo, follow me!
One thing I love about Lana is Lana's all about the action. She's about the acting, about the storytelling, but when it comes to the action with the fights and with the guns, she's right in there with us, making sure that we look cool and badass right there in every frame. It's real cool to get in there and get behind the weapon and be powerful and have those really heroic moments that the Matrix is known for.
to be so physically alive in a way that I never have been before. Shooting guns, it's the stuff dreams are made of. It's so fun.
The Matrix is such a firmly built, strong, and expansive mythology.
I don't think I've seen anybody work immersion better as directors or as world builders. They hook you. They hook you right from the start.
I wanted to show what happens to the future of that mythology, because I'm always rejecting the old mythologies, and Io is an evolution of Zion, which is a reduction of Zion.
Welcome to Io.
So Zion is no more. We now have Io, which is much more developed.
Its crucial and founding difference from Zion is that Synthians helped to build it. After the events of the trilogy, rose up a faction of differently thinking machines, and there was machine-on-machine violence. The losers, the refugees, were given a home by Niobe. They not only found shelter there, but found purpose.
In this new city of the future, machines and humans grow together. Binary thinking has now begun to be transcended.
Well, it is pretty to look at.
We had great fun conceptualizing it and thinking about the terms of the world, only a fraction of which is visible in the film. But you need a really well thought out iceberg. The world builders have worked everything out, and you just see the visible 10%. It's a different visible 10% than one where actually the world builders haven't thought about the other 90%.
Zion was basically a fortress city. People, once they left Zion, were looking to have a peaceful relationship with the machines. So this is a totally different environment. They're not on a war footing.
You know, they're not at war. They have time to think for themselves and to give themselves some luxury, but it isn't a place of luxury because everything they do, they have to manufacture. You have to have clothes you can work in, they have to be practical, but you're not on the defense all the time, so you can be a little bit relaxed and you can have color.
You know, it's this beautiful marriage between the future and scarcity.
This is the Io farm. It's a big valley in an old riverbed, and so they've set up this area here, this farm, to try and manufacture vegetables and fruits and products they can eat so they don't have to eat that gunk that they were eating in Zion.
Breakfast of champions.
Niobe? Few more wrinkles and a few less teeth, but wise enough to know I don't know anything.
I love that Lana made Niobe older. She is an older woman that is leading this city. You know, she's the OG, and she's honored in that way. It reminded me of cultures in Africa to this day, where the elders are utterly honored.
Disarm! Kujaku's a friend.
Kujaku is a Synthiant who saved the life of Sati.
We all agree that we needed a character who would kind of contain a knowledge of the Matrix, kind of an insider. And so Sati became an option.
In this world, our consciousness create the reality. So Sati is as close to being human as she can while also existing as a program.
I think she shows that in this world, it's an alliance with the humans. One is not subservient to the other. It really is an alliance of equals.
I've been praying for this day for a very long time.
This is the new ship of the fleet. This is the Nemesine. It was resurrected after the war they had, and with the help of the Synthians, they helped them rebuild it. So that was interesting, designing the new version of the ship. So the chairs have a different look to them, a different feel. They're from the Nebuchadnezzar. These have been refurbished, of course. They're more streamlined, a bit more elegant, because the machines have helped. This is the new improved version.
It's sick.
Yes, a lot has changed.
It was so inspiring to see how much Lana holds in her mind.
She knows exactly what she wants, and she knows how to get it, and she knows how to get it fast.
It's not a story, it's not characters, but it's a universe. It's an immersive experience. You feel it, you understand it, you think it.
I knew that this was a physical film. Just going through the script, I knew that Morpheus had some really cool action moments that I was very, very excited about. So I started to get myself into really good physical shape. I started to work on my flexibility and things like that, you know, just to make sure that I could do the karate movements and the, you know, the various kicks and stuff. And it was fortunate that I was thinking that way because we went straight to work. All of a sudden, I'm in our dojo and it's myself and the big dog going at it.
It was really exciting to think about what would be the character of the martial arts for Thomas Anderson, Neo, 20 years later.
Gotta be kidding. No joke.
Man, Keanu, he's so excited about what he does. You know, we go out to dinner and I look up the table and he's practicing his choreography.
And it's been really amazing. I've had a chance, you know, on this film to work with Tiger Chen, who I worked with on the first Matrix, the second Matrix, and the third Matrix.
I think he's so used to the jiu-jitsu, gun shooting. His body shape is different. Now you have to make stuff like kung fu more better looking, because the Matrix is all about, you know, fantastic looking. And then your moving has to be more bigger. It's not all about fighting. The Matrix is all about fantasy, different world, sci-fi. It's different.
So now we're throwing like so many different styles.
The style of Lana is changing. It's all changing for me. It's very different. The first Matrix, the second, third, it's more planning. This one, it's more organic.
You don't know me.
As a stunt person, we're always taught, okay, rehearse, 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 prepare, prepare, prepare. So I think what this taught me is like to kind of be open and like think really fast on the fly. I kind of welcome the challenge sometimes because I think it kind of opens you up, and sometimes great things come out of spontaneity, and I think that's the most honest things that come out. So we have a lot of stuff going on in 3 days, so we just have to be as efficient as possible. Neo's gonna blast new Morpheus through this dojo. So we got guys like hitting corners, falling off, jumping off, flipping off. We have wire gags kind of in the dojo. Some old school Hong Kong style wire work. Really reminiscent of the first one. Everything comes full circle. You're coming back to what started everything off.
It was a lot of fun. Part of the fun of the film is a good movie kung fu fight and some mind-blowing action.
Exiles.
I thought they were all purged.
You?
Oh, it is you!
Oh, God.
What happens to a program when they become self-aware and care about being alive. In the trilogy, The Matrix, the program was so big that there are certain programs had a certain amount of autonomy, right? So like the Merovingian. But that kind of autonomy in the leaner, more efficient Matrix, that was controlled by the analyst. A program like the Merovingian became superfluous. It was much harder to hide because it's a smaller matrix where purges take place. They can still be hiding in the cracks, and they don't want Neo to upset that structure.
What the Merv is trying to say is that their situation is a little bit like mine. To have their lives back, yours has to end.
The factory fight scene is an extension of the civil wars in the machine world. Some programs have fallen out of favor, some have gone lone wolf, and Smith has been able to round up a cadre of them to form his own loose Praetorian Guard. This ragtag Praetorian Guard are pretty dangerous, and it turns into a bit of a boss fight between Neo and Smith, while the other members of the crew are fighting the cadre. It's funny and weird and dangerous. It's as if the lower programs who have been skulking in the sort of the equivalent of the dark web have been rounded up from different video games. And what's pretty cool is in the Merovingian's Franglais diatribe, he recounts his grievances with Neo and we had conversation, we had culture, and now we just have these beepy, 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 beepy.
The one thing that he has kept for all these years is the desire to destroy Neo, that is for sure. I think his world was damaged. I think he went into hiding. He's one of those viruses in a way. He's been there, and he's sort of deep within the system. And he's not filled with the best intentions. So that meanness makes him survive.
This is not over yet. I will sequel franchise spin-off. Putain de connard d'enculé de ta mère, elle est bête!
I was thinking about when in the first movies, his castle, everybody was very much, you know, it was the party place, but they were all very much in latex and that sort of thing, and it was very cohesive look there. And I was thinking, well, I can't do that because, you know, it has moved on. So what would that be now? And so I wanted to do sort of trash punk. I wanted to do a little bit rave punk, that sort of thing. So if he was having that party now, it would probably be that bit of sort of techno trash. That was the sort of genesis of where all of those exiles were. So it's all very graffiti and that sort of thing. And also it was trash because that's where they live, is in the underground.
This costume, which is made out of bits of, I think it's a great image of you know, our human society in a way, that what we have produced and what we're left with. This is what has happened to this group of people that have been stuck in the corridors and the tubes of the Matrix.
There's a lot of wire work, multi-levels. What was good about that one was a lot of the people fighting were all stunt performers. It's like everyone's fighting. Pretty much the whole cast was fighting at that point. You have Yaya's fighting, Jessica's fighting, Keanu's fighting, Jonathan's fighting. Because if you watch it, it's like, it's not visual effect. I mean, everything's in camera. All those people flying those are real people. And to do that in that kind of space, in that amount of time was actually very impressive. I think we got very lucky because this cast was very physical and everyone trained really hard. You gotta remember, like, Lana's so brilliant and smart, it's like she's gonna put a new twist on this thing. So whatever we think is what we remember the Matrix, it's completely different in this one. Instead of having like balletic, beautiful kind of like wide fights, everything now is like more mayhem, more chaos. And I think it's just like, as an evolution as a filmmaker to change. Even though we're expecting what I grew up with, just like anything else, it has to change, and it wants to change. You want to change the genre somehow.
has really written these very rich roles. All of these characters have this inner self, and they're almost like this kind of light and dark.
Just like old times. Neo and Smith are each other's like yin and yang. They're basically each other's arch nemesis, so people are expecting this certain gravitas to the way they're fighting.
The bathroom fight between Keanu and Jonathan Smith, it was fantastic. It's clean and brutal at the same time.
What we're trying to do is recreate some of the feeling from the first movie, but kind of update it. So we will still have kung fu like we see, but I think in a less stylized, more gritty fashion.
Ready for some more kung fu?
At the beginning, Lana says to me, "You're Agent Smith," and I go, "Sure." The logical part of my brain goes, "I'm gonna pretend to beat up Keanu Reeves? Like, who the f am I?" So it was sort of that aspect of it seemed crazy to me. And I started to go to training, and I started to understand this world of the Matrix. I started to find my way into it. You do drills of really specific moves over and 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 over again. Muscle memory.
Jonathan trains all day long. That guy's work ethic is crazy. It's amazing. And the stuff he retains, and he still has that performance part of it. For someone that didn't grow up doing martial arts or doing kind of action movies, to see him do these things it's very impressive.
The fight team and Lana had a strategy for Smith where it's brutalistic and it's strong heavy punches as opposed to Keanu's style, which is more smooth and fluid. Keanu's like ba 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 ba, and then Smith is like ba, and then it's like da da da. And when she would describe Keanu, it was faster moves, and then Smith comes in with like a hard punch. So that's sort of this kind of fighting style that we were going with, being less technical, but more brutalistic.
You more than anyone understands why I can't go back.
Yeah, smashing the sink was scary. I'm throwing a sink at Keanu's head. And like, rah! I would never want to throw a sink at Keanu's head. Have a relationship with him that was physical, that is different than when you're doing lines. I didn't realize this. It's so different. And I feel closer to him now after having fought with him than I had before I fought with him.
And we had a good little fight, and yeah, it was fun.
I'll never forget it.
I've been thinking about us, Tom. About binaries that form the nature of things. Ones and zeros, light and dark, choice in its absence. Anderson and Smith.
There's not many films that come along that change the way you view cinema. There's before The Matrix and there's after The Matrix.
It was such a zeitgeist litmus shift from other films.
I must have been maybe 13, 14. And I remember being blown away. I had never seen anything like it. I think what I remember the most about the original films are those really pivotal shots.
The first time I saw Bullet Time, I was mind blown. If you think about the history of cinema, there are a few shots that as soon as you see it, you know exactly what movie that's from. Neo going into Bullet Time, that's an iconic shot.
Bullet Time was this desire to decouple time and space in cinema because they're so linked. And I was trying to look for a freedom that didn't exist. That character is trying to get free of the system of control that is also true for cameras and movement in space. And I was like, I just want to move a camera in a way that's faster than a camera can travel. And then writing this new story, I was looking for something that allows you to make the audience feel that feeling that they felt the time that they first saw The Matrix. That became exciting. I really like the idea that the analyst would use bullet time against Neo.
The analyst is throwing them into a version of sort of like bullet time, but it's sort of ultra bullet time.
So like as the analyst zipped around him, he would be like stuck at this super slow motion rate, but then the analyst would go zoop, 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 zoop.
Surprise. As we began to write it, we thought, wow, this relationship to our everyday experience of reality, days that seem to fly by, moments that seem to drag forever, if we could maybe try to capture some of that feeling. And so I said, I don't think I've ever seen a sequence in which many things are at a different frame rate. And it sounded like such a great idea, and it sounded like, it seems kind of simple.
From the get-go on this, there was the sense of the pressure or the expectation that's going to come from a film like this, and the technological aspect, and what are they going to do this time? How are they going to beat bullet time? I mean, I love a challenge, luckily.
Somebody came up with a cool idea to use a 3D stereo cam, but shoot a range from 8 frames a second all the way up to 120 frames.
2 cameras were rolling simultaneously at different frame rates, so that the same exact scene we didn't have to do twice. We could film it regular style and super duper 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 slow, so that you're getting these actual effects to actually be happening.
You can actually split screen different elements in the frame so that there are different frame rates.
You can dial between those looks of sort of very fluid, sort of almost liquid-like motion blur and sort of sharp, crispy detail.
Keanu, the backgrounds, Carrie, they're running at 120 frames, but the analyst is moving around them and talking. He's in real time.
Oh no, can you stop the bullet? If only you could move faster.
The analyst is mocking Neo with Mr. Bullet Time's slowness. It's beautiful.
Just give the people what they want, right?
The apple, beautiful visual moment, maybe my favorite in the film. Here comes the bullet, it just goes pop.
I think one of the fun things about The Matrix is it sort of operates on this different level that lots of movies don't operate on.
I wanted to bring something that felt exciting again, something new.
Crazy car chase through downtown San Francisco. It was just amazing.
The swarm scenes, hundreds of people running down streets.
I mean, 2 helicopters flying in between office buildings with cars flipping, exploding.
It's mind-boggling.
Yes.
I think one of the things about Lana that's really interesting is how her style and her way of working has evolved over the years. It's rare to see an artist who just absolutely goes in the complete polar opposite of what they became known for.
She's not even sure what her shot list is. She'll come in and the producers and the first AD, everyone's kind of wondering what the next shot is. Do we get on the helicopter and fly it again, or do we reset 85 people back to 1? And she just kind of thinks about it and thinks about it. And I initially thought to myself, how can you not be this prepared when you're doing these giant sequences? And then I realized, wait a second. She's made 3 movies like this before. She knows in her mind what she needs and how to get it effectively, efficiently. She's editing it while she's making it. And she's lived this life over and over and over in not a weird Matrixy way. And to do it a fourth time again has been very inspiring to watch that process, that confidence.
We had maybe almost 50 stunt people we trained, and you had a fight team, you had cars, you had motorcycles, you had a group of riggers getting slammed into trucks and getting blown back, and it was like stunt university. Lana and Warner Brothers gave us all the tools we needed, and we had helicopters and drones and picture cars and biscuit rigs. We have Russian arms and camera bikes. There was a lot.
This is a wild one. This was a fun one. What's so good about this one is it's so packed with people. Like even in my head, logistically, I'm like, how are we gonna pull this off without people getting smushed?
I think we had 70 when we were shooting, 70 stunt people. I brought up, as a who's who. You call these legendary stunt people and you go, hey, you want to be on Matrix for a week? Like, nobody's gonna say no.
Nia, get on!
This is one thing that I hope people retain when they're watching the making of, is how much Lana valued the real stuff, the real light, the real people. I think there's an assumption that most of this would be done with CG, that most of these effects would be layers.
This is real. We're not putting a CG helicopter in there. It just adds to the authenticity of the movie.
All that swarm stuff was amazing. One of my cousins was in it. Like, I brought them to set, and I was like, hey, Lana, my cousin's. And she's like, oh, you wanna be in the swarm? Made his life.
We're actually driving in the actual cars and weaving in and out of, I think there were like 300 or 350 extras. It was me and Arundira in this Bronco. And you're just watching all of these like crazy stunt guys just throwing themselves at the car and rolling off. And, we're like, shooting pistols out. Like, we're getting paid to do this? Are you kidding?
Get us out of here!
I'm trying.
Unreal, surreal. I get to drive this fat car like this G-Wagon and shoot people at the same time. And they would let me do that. Because usually they wouldn't, like let an actor sit behind the wheel, but it was like living in a movie, I don't know. It's hard to describe.
When I think back at the trilogy, that motorcycle stuff, it's like probably one of the hardest things I did. On this movie, I was super excited because I felt more confident this time. I had a couple of key things I wanted to hit, right? I had the motorcycle, the building, and then the fighting. And the motorcycle I thought for sure I'd do, and then they brought the bike, Keanu's bike. It's from his line.
So another meta twist from Lana. I'm part of a motorcycle company called Arch Motorcycle, and she liked one of these bikes that we built called the KRGT1.
I mean, wow. When I did get on the bike and was just like, yeah, I mean, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I was like, whoa, I can't do it. It's too powerful of a bike. Like, I'm not experienced enough to do that. I said, could you make it just a little more puh?
The falling bodies are the destructive intent of the analyst and the analyst's order as forcibly conscripted suicide bombers. And this has very, very dark echoes from our world. It has political and ideological chords. That's powerful, powerful stuff. That's potent, potent imagery. It's not kid stuff.
The way this film has been shot is so rich, so, much more convincingly real than things that we were shooting previously, that the CG cannot kind of pop out. It has to feel completely integrated. It has to feel like in support of a movie that has been shot. A big part of with Lana is trying to find ways to take the advantages of technology and be flexible rather than have technology limit what we're doing and slow the process for her.
So how do we get the best technology for the film? Because that's what The Matrix deserves. Jared Land and his company, Red, offered the best technology that this movie could have as far as our cameras go. The Red Ranger is the main camera that we shoot on,
and then the Komodo, which wasn't even in full production yet.
The Komodo is a brand new camera in a little box this size.
When you have explosions, you want the cameras to get super close. We were the first production to ever shoot with them. On top of that, as a gift for her being such a wonderful filmmaker, Jared wanted to present Lana with a customized red Komodo camera.
That is awesome.
Everyone has their own way of making films. As a crew, we have to figure out how to make Lana's vision come true. You just got to trust that she already has the whole idea of what it's going to look like in her head. You sometimes go, oh, I don't know if this will work. And then you look at it and go, wow, it looks amazing.
Wanted to do this sequence where the Neo and Trinity are on the top of a building and they take hold of each other's hands and they run full speed and they jump off a skyscraper together. And I wanted it in the perfect sunlight, in the perfect moment, and I wanted it to feel completely real. I wanted to see Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves as these two characters really jump off a building.
Can they make that jump? I said, Lana, if you're looking for a wire person, I know the person. Scott Rogers.
Before I even read the script, Lana Wachowski, our director, talked to me about this jump. We are in San Francisco on a 43-story building that is 550 feet up.
In movie world, it always comes up to, well, why wouldn't you just do it, you know, on a green screen stage, or why do you need to do it for real? And to create these moments, live action, the real environment pushes you to be the best filmmaker that you possibly can be.
It really allows the actors to be in this environment. It gives a reality to what we're doing.
On the very first day when I met Scott, I said to him, I just need you to know that the only way I can do this jump is if I trust you and your team. So let's just, right here, right now, just be completely honest with each other. Because I want to do this, I'm planning to do this, but if I don't trust you, I won't be able to do it. Where Keanu and I are very different. Keanu needed to know that how it worked. I just needed to know the people.
We took about a month of training.
All the departments were there, and they had, me and Keanu would train all morning, and it was so hard.
I said, you can't be afraid. It can't be about fear in this moment. It's about something else.
It was definitely challenging. A huge portion of the time when I wasn't working was mentally preparing for that jump.
You know, there's a lot of logistics and behind the scenes for a piece of action.
A plan was devised to how to get the actors ready to do something of this nature.
We built the rig up in stages to allow the actors particularly to be able to become comfortable with the rigging system that they're in, and also to become comfortable with the process at which the stunt took parts.
We built the exact rig that we have here. We had 9 feet in the air on a container. And then as they got comfortable there, we moved the container up to 3 containers high, which is almost 30 feet. And then we went to 5 containers high, which is about 50 feet.
I don't want to say there is danger and risk involved. There inherently is with any piece of stunt action.
It's impressive, it's scary, it's all of those things, but it's really not more dangerous than 50 feet in the air. I mean, you fall from 50 feet, it's near fatal also. The height doesn't change anything, so you sort of have to move that out of your mind.
It's important for them, you know, as human beings to overcome the fear of height, but for a performer to be able to overcome the fear of height and to still be able to perform as an actor.
And Scott was cool. He started us pretty low and then got higher and higher and higher, and they perfected the hanging part.
And we did that a number of times, and then we took that entire rig and brought it up here to the rooftop.
So what they did is they built a rig that was at the top of this one office building and then went to a kind of slightly lower office building. I would drop like 15 feet, hanging on. I guess from her, probably not 15, probably 10. And then be suspended 500 feet in the air. And a lot of people went, no. And Lana went, yes. and then Scott went, yeah. And so they went in, and then there was a moment where they wanted to like not have it happen.
The insurance company stopped us and said, this is too dangerous. We're not doing this.
You know, a lot of folks didn't want Carrie Ann and I to jump off the, was it 45th floor?
The amount of energy that came at us to try to stop us from doing this.
There was no part of me that was not going to do that.
And then Scott has a daughter who's in stunts and who was training for Trinity, and basically said to the folks that were questioning it, and Scott was just like, my daughter's done it 10 times. Do you think this isn't safe if I have my daughter doing it?
And she jumped, and the insurance guy is there, and I was like, would you do that?
And they were like, okay, great, okay. So we're gonna jump off a building.
Obviously, weather is a huge factor in whether we can do the stunt or not.
It was like we only had these tiny windows of space to jump.
So, you know, we'd be filming all night, and then it would be like the clouds, no clouds, okay, run up to the top of the building, put your costume on, get harnessed.
And we would just wait, and we'd see if the sun came out, if it was perfect. And sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't, but we went up there almost like a vigil, like a pilgrimage to this skyscraper, and we're just like, please, please, please. And then there was this moment.
3, 2, 1, go!
And they jumped, and it was, everybody was just like open mouth. It was so beautiful.
Bye.
And this moment of like pure cinema magic, and it was really real.
Every person who jumped off the edge of that building, they came back up a different person. There was like this fire, this thing in their eye, which was like impossible. You just saw that something in that moment had made them change, which is jumping off a 40-story building, but like life-changing.
And this is something that, 20, 30 years from now, we'll look back on. It'll be a memorable moment.
It was really, really a special day. Jumping off a building is extraordinary.
It was effortless, and probably one of the most courageous acts that I will have ever done.